All right, so we're going to continue on linear programming using MATLAB built-in function linprog. So we were talking about example 5 in the last video, and so we covered a few things. We talked about how we can add equalities, how we can add lower bound, upper bound, and how we can add options to change the way MATLAB solves the linear programming. So for this part of the course, we only look at, or we use actually dual simplex. MATLAB doesn't have just simplex. I think if you use dual simplex, it's the same as dual simplex. Okay. So now the last example I want to show you is, actually before going to the last example, I want to talk about other outputs that you can get. We get x as usual, the solution to the optimal or the optimal solution to the linear programming problem. We can get the z, which is the maximum. Well, in this case, is the MATLAB, so that's the minimum. That's the minimum of the objective function that goes into fval, and then exit flag. There are options in exit flag. You can look at MATLAB help and see what each exit flag means, but basically that has to do with whether the linear programming converged or diverged, there's a unique solution or not, and things like that. And then other outputs. So if I run this, you see that we get other outputs like that. It says, in maybe 0 iterations, it converged, there is an optimal solution, and the method is dual simplex, and so forth. In case the solution doesn't converge, then you get different, information for this output. Okay. So, and then the last example I want to talk about is about this, basically, the other things that we can do with the linear programming function here. So in this example, I have a simple problem. Let's say that I have the a coefficient, the b, the f, the objective function, and I only have lower bound. What if you do not have the upper bound? In case you only have the lower bound, then you would think that, oh, okay, so I just put the lower bound here and leave the upper bound. Well, this is supposed to be the upper bound matrix, and just leave it blank. Okay, so I believe, according to 2016 version that I'm using, I think this should not work. Let me just try this. Actually, the bottom one doesn't work. This one doesn't work. Actually, this one works. So let me just move it up. Yeah, so if you do not have the upper bound, remember upper bound comes after lower bound. If you do not have the upper bound, you just leave it blank. But what if you so you cannot basically do not use it. Like the difference between this line and this one, which doesn't work, is that if you do not have something, you cannot just leave it. You have to enter an empty matrix. Okay, this one doesn't have that matrix at all, right? So, and if we use in 2016 version, I think in maybe higher version that works, but in 2016 that I'm using, this doesn't work. And if I run this, you get an error. Okay, so the number of arguments should match the general form. The general form is the first is the f, then a and b, then a equal, b equal, then lower bound, upper bound, and then an empty matrix here, and then options, if you use an option. Okay, now if you don't have any of these, you have to leave them as a blank matrix in 2016 version. In other versions, maybe you can just discard that one, but I think to be on the safe side, it's good to just leave it as blank. Okay. I think this covers linear programming option or function in MATLAB. I hope you can use it. This actually ends the linear programming section of the course. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks so much for watching.